No cash, no test drive, the salesman barked, his voice slicing through the air with sharp finality. Heads turned. Every gaze in the opulent dealership locked onto Amelia, who stood motionless beneath the glittering chandeliers. Her simple, understated outfit stark against the showroom's gleaming extravagance. What none of them knew, what none of them could have guessed, was that her husband, the man whose name now quietly owned every square inch of this dealership chain, was Daniel Richardson. Their smug expressions were about to unravel in the most spectacular fashion. Gentle streams of morning light drifted through linen curtains, washing the bedroom in soft gold, as Amelia Richardson neatly folded her cherished cream blouse. She tucked it carefully into her overnight bag, laying it next to a pale pink cardigan. Nothing ostentatious, just effortlessly comfortable, exactly how she preferred. "Are you sure you don't want to wait until tomorrow? We could drive up together," Daniel's voice echoed from the tiled sanctuary of their bathroom. Amelia's lips curved into a smile as she zipped her bag closed. "And miss my spa retreat with Jennifer? Not a chance. Besides, I want to see the new acquisition with my own eyes before you arrive." Daniel appeared in the doorway, a towel draped around his waist, streaks of silver glinting in his thick dark hair. At 45, he possessed the composed self-assurance of a man who had meticulously built an empire from the ground up. "Just remember, nobody knows you there yet," he reminded her, his brow furrowing with a trace of concern. "I haven't even met the staff myself." "That's precisely why I'm going," Amelia replied, brushing a kiss across his cheek. "Your corporate audit team arrives tomorrow, but today I'll see how they treat a regular customer. The unvarnished truth." Daniel shook his head slowly, but his eyes softened, crinkling at the corners with unspoken admiration. "Mystery shopping my own dealership chain? You're sharper than ever." 15 years in customer service before I met you," she reminded him, voice tinged with pride. "You taught me everything about the soul of a business. And let's be clear, being underestimated is my secret weapon." For 2 decades, the Richardson Auto Group had ascended steadily, but Daniel's latest venture, the acquisition of Northlake Luxury Auto in the heart of downtown Chicago, was his boldest leap yet. The previous owner had cultivated a glowing reputation for elite vehicles, but in recent years, customer grievances had surged alarmingly. "Observe, don't interfere," Daniel cautioned gently. "You know how fired up you get when you witness poor service." Amelia laughed softly, her eyes bright. "I promise to behave, mostly." 3 hours later, Amelia eased her sedan into a parking space several blocks away from the dealership. She smoothed the front of her crisp white blouse, adjusted the drape of her cardigan, and checked her reflection in her compact mirror. At 42, her face bore the graceful etchings of life fully lived. Faint laugh lines framed her eyes, which Daniel affectionately called her happiness markers. She strolled the 3 blocks to Northlake Luxury Auto, deliberately leaving her designer handbag hidden in the trunk. Today she was simply Amelia, not Amelia Richardson of the Richardson Auto Group. The dealership's facade shimmered, pristine glass and gleaming chrome reflecting the city's pulse. Vehicles stood displayed like priceless artifacts under perfect lighting. Drawing a steadying breath, she pushed through the revolving doors. Inside, the air was thick with the polished aroma of leather and quiet ambition. Salespeople in tailored suits prowled the floor with rehearsed grace. Near the reception desk, 3 men in nearly indistinguishable navy suits clustered together, chuckling over something on a smartphone. Amelia approached a sleek black sedan, her fingers grazing the hood's silky surface. Within moments, she felt a pair of eyes lock onto her. Turning, she found a tall, meticulously dressed salesman striding toward her, his smile honed but hollow. "Good morning," he greeted, his gaze flickering quickly over her modest attire, clearly scanning for signs of status. "Just browsing today." Actually, Amelia responded warmly, extending her hand, I'm interested in this model. I'm Amelia. The salesman, Gregory, according to his lacquered name tag, offered her a perfunctory handshake. Gregory Norton. This is our Balazza GT, quite an exclusive vehicle. His tone carried an unmistakable undercurrent, a suggestion that perhaps she had wandered into territory beyond her means. It's exquisite, she replied, intentionally ignoring his subtle dismissal. I'd love to learn more about it, and perhaps arrange a test drive. Gregory's smile thinned imperceptibly. Of course, though I should mention, the Balazza starts at $115,000. Perhaps I can show you something a touch more practical? This model is precisely what I'm looking for, Amelia countered evenly, her voice unwavering. She'd danced this waltz of condescension before, the presumption that a woman in simple clothing couldn't possibly afford opulence. Very well, Gregory acquiesced, though skepticism shadowed his polished exterior. The Balazza GT boasts a turbocharged V8 engine, a sumptuous leather interior, and advanced driver assist technologies. His rundown was mechanical, devoid of the enthusiasm she imagined he reserved for customers clad in designer suits. Amelia caught sight of two other salesmen watching from across the showroom, their glances flitting between her and Gregory with thinly veiled amusement. Impressive, she nodded thoughtfully. I'd like to feel how it handles. Could we arrange that test drive now? Gregory's practiced mask faltered for the first time. I'm afraid our test drives require pre-approval from our finance department. Perhaps we should first discuss financing options? Amelia immediately grasped what was unfolding. They were shepherding her away, soft barriers materializing one after another. The true nature of this dealership was beginning to show. I won't be needing financing, she said, her tone calm, though her pulse quickened beneath her composure. I intend to pay in full. Gregory's eyebrows arched faintly, surprise flickering. I see. Well, our policy still mandates verification of funds prior to any test drives in this price range. Security measures, you understand. Of course, Amelia replied smoothly. Would you like to see my bank statement? That would be helpful, Gregory responded, voice laced with doubt. Amelia retrieved her phone from her pocket. I can pull up my banking app right now. As she opened the application, Gregory cleared his throat abruptly. Perhaps it would be best if we discuss this with my manager, he offered, already gesturing toward a sleek, glass-enclosed office, where a man in a charcoal suit sat authoritatively behind a grand desk. As they walked, Amelia noticed Gregory positioning himself subtly ahead of her, a minor but deliberate assertion of hierarchy that did not go unnoticed. The office door swung open as they approached. Gregory, is there an issue? The manager inquired, his placard reading Kenneth Peterson. His eyes skipped over Gregory and landed on Amelia with surgical precision, his silent evaluation even swifter and sharper. Ms. Gregory faltered, realizing he hadn't bothered to ask her surname. Just Amelia is fine, she offered, extending her hand confidently to Kenneth. Ms. Amelia is interested in the Balazza GT, Gregory explained, layering an emphasis on her lone first name as if it validated his assumptions. I've outlined our protocols regarding test drives. Kenneth's handshake was brief and calculated. Of course. Please have a seat. He gestured toward the chair opposite his imposing desk as he settled into his own. Gregory remained standing, a silent sentinel. I understand you're interested in our premium line, Kenneth began, folding his hands with measured grace. The Balazza is among our most elite offerings. Yes, it would seem ideal for my needs, Amelia replied steadily. And what exactly are those needs? Kenneth asked, voice cloaked in curiosity, though his gaze remained sharp, assessing. I travel frequently between Chicago and Milwaukee. I require something dependable, supremely comfortable, with top-tier safety features. And naturally, I appreciate craftsmanship and luxury. Kenneth nodded slowly, his expression unreadable. Understandable, though many vehicles offer reliability and comfort at varying price points. Gregory could show you several alternatives that might more appropriately align with your circumstances. Amelia felt her patience stretch taut but refused to let it snap. Her voice, when it came, was cool and absolute. I am specifically interested in the Balazza GT. I've done my research. Research is invaluable, Kenneth replied, his smile tightening into something condescending enough to make her skin prickle. But experience in this industry enables us to guide clients towards suitable choices. The implication was razor clear. You don't belong behind the wheel of this car. I'd like to test drive the Balazza, Amelia repeated, her words carved from granite. Today. Kenneth's gaze flicked briefly toward Gregory before he leaned in ever so slightly. Perhaps I should be forthright. Test driving vehicles of this caliber comes with certain financial prerequisites. We cannot simply allow anyone to take a $115,000 automobile for a spin. Anyone, Amelia echoed, one brow lifting ever so slightly. Kenneth backtracked quickly, his composure momentarily fractured. I merely mean we have protocols. Without verified financing or proof of purchasability, I can pay in cash, Amelia cut in, her voice like velvet over steel. And I would be more than happy to show you the balance of my accounts. Kenneth's smile remained intact, but his grip on control had begun to slip. We have a duty, Kenneth intoned, his voice laced with thinly veiled condescension, to ensure that our vehicles are paired with buyers who are truly suited to them. The Balazza demands particular maintenance, specific insurance considerations, factors I'm certain you can appreciate. I understand that fully, Amelia replied, her tone unwavering, her eyes steady. By now, the extended exchange in Kenneth's office had not gone unnoticed. Across the glassy expanse of the showroom, salespeople cast furtive glances while pretending to shuffle papers and polish desks. Some abandoned the facade entirely, watching openly with poorly disguised curiosity. Kenneth's smile evaporated, replaced by an expression carved from stone. His words dropped heavier now, his mask slipping. To be candid, Miss Amelia, the Balazza may not align with the realities of your lifestyle. Perhaps it would be prudent for you to consider test driving some of our more accessible models first. He gestured toward Gregory. He can show you our certified pre-owned selection. The insinuation slithered through the air, unspoken but unmistakable. Amelia inhaled deeply, fortifying her composure. She was determined to see this theater of pretense to its bitter end. I'd like to speak with someone else, she said, her voice smooth as glass. Kenneth's jaw stiffened. I am the sales manager, he countered, each syllable sharpened to a point. I can assure you, anyone else on my team will echo precisely what I've told you. We operate under clear policies. No funds, no test drive. Gregory's voice rang out then, pitched deliberately to catch the ears of others nearby. It's for everyone's safety, he proclaimed, his tone laced with performative authority. Several heads swiveled in their direction. The public shaming had been engineered with surgical precision, visible enough to deter her, yet veiled sufficiently under the guise of protocol to grant them plausible deniability. Amelia recognized this dance all too well, the same tactics she'd endured countless times in her former customer service career. I see, she murmured, rising with quiet dignity. Thank you for your time. As she stepped from Kenneth's office, the sensation of 100 unseen daggers pressed against her back. The weight of every gaze anchored to her figure. The soft murmur of whispers bloomed like smoke. salespeople leaning toward one another, with smirks curling at the edges of their mouths. Yet she stood taller still, spine unbowed, even as heat surged along the column of her neck. Kenneth trailed her out, his voice pitched high enough to cascade across the showroom. Please understand, we're merely adhering to our procedures. We would, of course, be delighted to assist you with options more appropriate. The carefully choreographed degradation revealed itself in full clarity. This was no mere lapse in customer service. It was calculated exclusion wrapped meticulously in the velvet glove of policy. Every phrase had been sculpted to remind her she did not belong. I understand perfectly, Amelia replied, her voice a ribbon of steel beneath silk. Her pulse roared in her ears, but her expression betrayed nothing. And yet I remain interested in the balaza. Perhaps there is someone else willing to assist? A younger salesman caught her eye from across the floor, his features softer, untouched by the hardened cynicism of his colleagues. She took a step toward him, but before she could close the distance, Gregory materialized in her path like a wall of polished stone. I'm afraid Mr. Peterson retains ultimate authority over premium test drives, he informed her, his voice syrupy with counterfeit regret. However, I would be more than happy to show you vehicles from our mid-range collection. Something far more fitting. The final word struck like a slap wrapped in velvet. Amelia planted her feet. And what, Mr. Norton, precisely makes the balaza unsuitable for me? Gregory's gaze flicked reflexively to Kenneth, who rewarded him with the barest nod of approval. The ambient hum of the showroom dimmed as the surrounding patrons tuned in. The balaza constitutes a significant financial commitment, Gregory explained, his tone slow and patronizing, as though instructing a child. In our extensive experience, individuals who arrive unaccompanied and without prior arrangement generally aren't prepared for a vehicle in this echelon. Unaccompanied? Amelia echoed, her eyebrows arching elegantly. Would your reception have shifted if I'd walked through those doors beside a man? Her inquiry hung in the still air, crystalline and unflinching. Gregory's carefully composed smile fractured for the briefest heartbeat. That's not what I intended to imply. Isn't it? Amelia interjected, her voice precise as a scalpel, yet calm as falling snow. Tell me, Mr. Norton, how many casually dressed men have you denied test drives today? Kenneth strode forward then, his features tightened into a mask of strained authority. Let's not descend into accusations. Our policies are universal. Are they? Amelia countered smoothly, her gaze shifting toward a middle-aged man clad in jeans and a polo shirt being ushered eagerly toward a gleaming silver sports car. Your colleague seems more than happy to arrange a test drive for that gentleman. Kenneth offered only a perfunctory glance. I assure you, he's a pre-qualified client. How convenient, Amelia remarked, her tone lilting but laced with quiet fire. She inhaled, grounding herself with the knowledge of why she endured this charade. Daniel deserved to witness firsthand the undercurrent pulsing through his newly acquired dealership. Perhaps I should speak to the owner, she suggested lightly, the irony curling at the edges of her lips. Snickers rippled through the nearby sales staff, poorly concealed behind cupped hands and bent heads. Kenneth's smile resurfaced, wider now, dripping with mockery. The owner? He repeated with thinly veiled amusement. Ms. Amelia, Mr. Blackwell sold this dealership last week. The new ownership group is out of state. I highly doubt they're interested in individual test drive disputes. Little did he know. Amelia's eyes flicked briefly to her watch. Daniel would arrive within the hour for a surprise pre-inspection visit. She merely needed to endure until then. I'll wait, she declared, moving gracefully toward the leather sofas in the lounge. As you wish, Kenneth replied dismissively, though I doubt our stance will shift before then. From her seat, Amelia observed the ebb and flow of the dealership with a detached calm, fingers idly dancing across her phone screen. 40 minutes ebbed away. Slowly, the sales staff's fascination with her waned, though occasional glances still darted in her direction, accompanied by knowing smirks and exchanged looks. She noted it all. The deferential treatment of male customers contrasted against the thinly veiled dismissiveness directed toward women. The pattern was unmistakable. Daniel had to see it with his own eyes. The main doors parted with a soft hiss, and Amelia's heart stirred. Daniel Richardson stepped inside, his figure commanding in a charcoal suit tailored to perfection. At 6 feet 1, with salt and pepper hair framing a face carved by experience, he carried a presence that drew attention effortlessly. His gaze swept the showroom with an assessing sharpness. For a moment, no one approached. Then Gregory surged forward, his instincts finely tuned to recognize affluence. "Good afternoon, sir. Welcome to North Lake Luxury Auto. Gregory Norton. How may I assist you today?" Daniel smiled politely but withheld immediate reply, his eyes continuing their quiet search, until they locked momentarily with Amelia's. A flicker of recognition, subtle yet unmistakable, crossed his features before his mask of neutrality slid back into place. "I'm interested in your premium line," Daniel stated smoothly, his attention swiveling back to Gregory. "Specifically, the Balazza GT." Gregory all but sparkled with enthusiasm. "An exceptional choice, sir. The Balazza stands among our most elite offerings. May I show you the available models?" "Actually," Daniel said coolly, "I understand you have a black model on display. I'd like a closer look." "Of course. Right this way." Gregory gestured eagerly, guiding Daniel directly toward the very vehicle Amelia had been denied access to. His demeanor transformed into one of almost reverent attentiveness. Kenneth emerged from his office then, his instincts roused by the scent of a lucrative deal. "Kenneth Peterson, sales manager," he introduced, extending his hand briskly. "A pleasure to meet you, Mr. Richardson," Daniel supplied, his handshake firm and self-assured. "Daniel Richardson." If the name triggered any recognition in Kenneth, he concealed it flawlessly. The Richardson Auto Group had kept the acquisition shrouded in secrecy, with only senior management informed ahead of the formal announcement next week. "Mr. Richardson, welcome to North Lake. I see Gregory is presenting our Balazza GT, an extraordinary machine." "Yes, it captured my attention immediately," Daniel replied evenly. "I'd like to arrange a test drive." "Absolutely." Kenneth nearly vibrated with anticipation. "We can prepare the necessary paperwork straight away. Perhaps you'd like to review the specifications in the meantime." Daniel's gaze drifted toward Amelia. Then with practiced ease, he turned back to Kenneth. "Actually, I'd like my wife to join me. She's been anticipating this model as well." Kenneth's smile faltered. "Your wife?" Daniel turned, raising his voice ever so slightly. "Amelia, would you join us, please?" A hush swept through the dealership. Every pair of eyes tracked Amelia as she rose gracefully from her seat and crossed the gleaming floor. Her simple white blouse and soft pink cardigan now commanded center stage. The confusion on Kenneth's face curdled slowly into dawning horror. Gregory stood motionless, his jaw slack, as understanding dawned. "Hello, darling," Amelia greeted, brushing a gentle kiss against Daniel's cheek before facing Kenneth with a smile as sweet as summer wine. "Mr. Peterson and I were just discussing this very model earlier," she said pleasantly. "He explained quite thoroughly why I wasn't permitted to test drive it." Daniel's brow arched ever so slightly. "Is that so? I'd very much like to hear about that policy." Color drained from Kenneth's face as the crushing weight of realization descended upon him. His eyes darted wildly between Amelia and Daniel, desperate for escape. Mrs. Richardson," he stammered, the name now heavy with newfound significance. "It seems there's been a misunderstanding." Gregory stood frozen, his polished composure shattered entirely. Around them, silence pressed in like a closing fist. The air in the showroom had thickened, a hush so complete it seemed to press against the walls. Every employee, as if pulled by an invisible thread of curiosity and dread, drifted subtly closer, straining to catch every word. "There is no misunderstanding," Amelia stated, her tone unwavering yet laced with quiet steel. "Your message was abundantly clear. According to you, the Bazaar GT is not meant for someone like me. I believe your exact words were, 'No money, no test drive.'" Daniel's face remained an impassive mask, but there was a distinct shift in his eyes, a glint of something sharpened, something resolute. "That's an interesting policy," he remarked, his voice even, yet edged with unmistakable gravity. "Especially when you consider that my wife's name is on half the ownership documents of this dealership." Kenneth Adams' apple bobbed conspicuously as he swallowed hard. "Mr. Richardson, if I had only known—" "And that," Daniel interjected, his words low but slicing cleanly through the charged silence, "is precisely the problem. You should not need to know who someone is to afford them basic human dignity." Amelia's hand rose, soft and deliberate, resting on Daniel's forearm, a silent plea to allow her to take the reins. He inclined his head by the slightest measure, granting her the floor. "Mr. Peterson," she began, her voice composed yet imbued with a quiet authority that commanded attention. "I visited your dealership today not as a co-owner, but as an ordinary patron, to observe firsthand how customers are treated when you believe no one influential is watching." Her gaze swept across the assembled staff, many of whom now found the floor beneath their shoes fascinating. "For 15 years, I immersed myself in the world of customer service. I climbed the rungs from cashier to regional manager. I know with painful clarity the difference between adhering to policy and wielding humiliation as a tool." Kenneth's attempt to regain footing was almost excruciating to witness. His voice wavered. "Mrs. Richardson, please believe me. If there was any perceived disrespect—" "There was far more than an impression," Amelia cut in, her tone now infused with unmistakable resolve. "There was a systematic, deliberate attempt to alienate me, predicated solely on how I look and how I dress." Daniel stepped forward then, his presence radiating command. "I acquired this dealership because of its acclaimed reputation for excellence," he stated, each word deliberate, weighted. "But now it's painfully evident that reputation was built on exclusivity and elitism, not genuine service." He turned, addressing the entire showroom floor. "For those of you unaware, I am Daniel Richardson of Richardson Auto Group. As of last week, this dealership is under our ownership. Tomorrow, a transition team will arrive to begin a comprehensive assessment." His words hung in the air, sharp and heavy as a guillotine blade poised above the block. "Today was meant to be a discreet visit," Daniel continued, his gaze unwavering, "an opportunity to witness the authentic day-to-day operations before finalizing staffing decisions." Gregory, finally unthawed by the weight of the moment, found his voice. "Mr. Richardson, please understand—" "I understand perfectly well," Daniel interrupted, his tone brooking no argument. "I witnessed with unflinching clarity how you treat those who do not conform to your preconceived notions of affluence." The week that followed was nothing short of transformative for Northlake Luxury Auto. Kenneth and Gregory's tenures came to an abrupt end, their roles swiftly replaced by individuals who embraced the Richardson ethos: respect first, always. Amelia immersed herself fully in the transition, spearheading comprehensive training programs centered on equitable treatment and authentic hospitality. Slowly but unmistakably, the very air within the showroom began to shift. Where once there had been veiled judgment and cautious exclusion, Now there flourished a culture grounded in warmth and genuine regard. A month later, Amelia returned. She wore the same unassuming attire as before, yet the atmosphere that greeted her was profoundly different. Thomas, a recently promoted sales consultant, approached her with an easy, sincere smile. "Good morning, Mrs. Richardson. Are you here to see Mr. Richardson today?" Her lips curved softly. "Actually," she replied, her voice touched with quiet satisfaction, "I'm here as a customer. I'd like to test drive the Baza GT, absolutely," Thomas answered without the faintest hesitation. "The keys are ready whenever you are." As Amelia settled into the driver's seat, her eyes lifted, meeting Daniel's gaze through the glass walls of his office. He watched her, pride shimmering unmistakably in his expression. Some lessons, she reflected, about dignity and assumptions are worth teaching, even when they force uncomfortable truths into the light. Has anyone ever judged or underestimated you based solely on your appearance? Many of us have endured moments where others measure our worth before understanding our true capabilities. If this story struck a chord with you, we'd be honored to hear your experiences in the comments. And let us know, where in the world are you watching from? Remember to subscribe for more stories that remind us all that character is not stitched into designer labels or reflected in luxury cars. It's revealed unambiguously in how we choose to treat one another. The most potent response to prejudice isn't always outrage. Sometimes it's the quiet, undeniable power of showing the world exactly who you are,